necessarily the writing itself, but the story. And the story was this. When I found out about my HIV status, I felt inhuman. I didn't feel like myself. I reverted back to that awkward girl. And I was still trying to find my place, my sexual identity. And all of us have a sexual identity, whether we like to be honest about it or not, you know. Everyone has an identity, and that, part and parcel, as young as you are, you have some sort of sexual identity that's kind of connected to you, to who you are. So I think that's really what people connected to, was the fact that I was very honest about it, and the entire kind of process I went through, from wearing baggy jeans, to being the girl who twerks a lot at the club. That's how I met my boyfriend. He doesn't want to admit it, but that's actually how I moved in. That's what I did. So after that, you know, after that whole thing, I started getting calls after that article. So this was around February, and I was looking for work, which is something you all experience, which is daunting, by the way. Looking for a job is a lot of work. In itself, it is a job. I think that should be a profession. I think everyone should be allowed to write their CV. I applied for a job. It's daunting. It's really, really, really stressful, and you have to go through tons and tons of emails and applications, and you have to write lots of cover letters and edit your CV to fit the kind of job you want. It's just a lot of work. So I was applying for different jobs, and kind of nothing was coming together the way I thought it would. And in the end, what happened was, a few people who read the article said to me, called me up or emailed me and said, hey, listen, Phindile, we read your article in our magazine, and you have a way of connecting with young people. Do you want to come consult with us around HIV, AIDS, and young people? I was like, okay, it's a job that pays. Sure. So I took it up, and that was the AIDS Consortium, actually. One of the oldest HIV and AIDS NGOs in South Africa. And I started doing some work with them for a few months, consulting on and off. And after that, I realized that there was something there. Through all these bad decisions, series of bad decisions that I had made, unknowingly, that they would lead me to kind of where I am today. And that's kind of how the ball started rolling. And I started kind of getting jobs everywhere around HIV and AIDS, around youth, around empowerment, around what it means to be HIV positive in the 21st century in South Africa. I became, I think, a better writer, so I started writing a bit more as well. So it was just all these things that kind of happened without me really realizing that they were happening. They were shaping what eventually would become my career and what would become my job today. Like I said, I'm 25, so there's still a long way to go. When I think about it, I think there's still much more that needs to be done, and there's a lot more that I can accomplish, and hopefully I'll do that and I'll get to that point. But so far, it's been a really, really interesting journey. And I mean, I have to tell you a story because I think it was the coolest thing that ever happened to me in my life. Hands down. I wish I should have brought the pictures. Anyways. So one of the coolest things that happened was actually just last year. This is when I realized that sometimes, and it goes back to the theme of this whole conference, right? Which is Ubuntu, right? So, what happened was, last year, I reached a point where I thought to myself, I don't really want to do this HIV thing again, like anymore. I'm tired. What a lot of people don't realize is, in my line of work, there's a lot of myself that goes into it. So it's not just doing a job, it's not just going to an office and consulting with people, it's not just going to schools and speaking to other young people, it's also bringing myself into it. And that gets very exhausting. I get exhausted, like just emotionally, mentally, it's exhausting. So around my birthday last year, I planned a trip to go to Paris for 2 weeks. So let me go visit one of my friends who's doing his master's there. Let me go to Paris for 2 weeks, clear my mind. And went to Paris, and I was kind of just hanging out with other people who didn't really know my story. And I liked the feeling. I liked the fact that people didn't know me as the girl with HIV. It was kind of a nice change in pace, because for the past few years, that's what I was known as. Wherever I go, people had seen me on TV, radio, read an article I wrote, etc. And I would always be the girl with HIV. So I was in Paris, where, by the way, my French is really, really bad. But still, you know, I was Phindile, the girl, all the Parisians thought I was really, really cool. I was like a cool accessory, basically, and I really liked that. I'll be completely honest with you, I really, really enjoyed that. So I was a cool accessory in Paris that was just this cool, hip African girl who was in Paris. It was great. And then something happened, which was I got an email on my work email, which basically said, we're filming a documentary for Keep a Child Alive. Please would you be a part of it? We're in Johannesburg. Are you willing to be a part of this documentary? Of course, my first thought was, hell no. I don't want to be part of your documentary, you know. So actually that's exactly what I wrote. I was like, yeah, no. Besides, I'm in Paris at the moment, so I won't be able to do documentary. So I get a response back. These people were very, very persistent, by the way. Extremely persistent. So I get an email back which says, no, it's fine. We'll wait for you to come back to Paris and we'll kind of extend our stay in Johannesburg. So I'm like, who are these people and why do they really want me in the documentary? In the end, I kind of gave it and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. So it was a day after I arrived back from Paris, the kind of whole crew came to my house and they did this interview. And I think one of the important things that happened there was, I think traveling, just as a whole, in general, by the way, traveling kind of opens something up in you. I don't remember when you were. Don't you ever feel like when you travel, like you just feel something, like something happens, you get very introspective, you get very deep on Chopra again, you know, you feel like you could really write the book on how to be cool, or whatever it is, you know. You just feel more connected to yourself, and that's exactly what happened. I was in Paris, and I was crying, and I was having a great time, but I was also in a way connected to myself a bit more. I was kind of away from this image, this label, this box that I've always been put into, and I was just in. And so it gave me time to think and to process a lot of things that I hadn't had time to process while I was in the limelight, while I was working, while I was always traveling from Ethiopia to Washington, D.C., to wherever I was. And I had time to kind of just be a normal 25-year-old girl. Anyway, so I think that really came out of the documentary. And a few months later, I got an email back from him saying, listen, Keep Child Alive, by the way, is an organization that was co-founded by Alicia. So I get an email back, and it's from one of the women who actually interviewed me for the documentary. Her name is Nancy. And Nancy said, listen, so we were editing this whole thing, and your pod came up, and we were in the editing room, and Alicia walked in. Alicia, I call her Alicia, by the way. That's the first cool thing. I think you should go along with that. So Alicia walks in. She's like, Alicia, he just walked in while we're editing this pod, and everyone kind of stood still, and it was like, wow. So I don't know what they were talking about because I hadn't seen it. And to me, it was just talking. I was kind of just explaining my life, kind of where I've been, my journey, etc., and what I wanted to say at the end of people living with HIV. I think that was the part, in fact, that got everyone talking. And so they decided, they made a kind of executive decision at that time to say, let's invite this girl over to New York to speak at the Black Ball. So the Black Ball is basically an event that Keep a Child Alive has every single year. It's a fundraising event that they have, very Hollywood, very like red carpet, real red carpet, I saw it, it was red. Red carpet, all the celebrities, all the who's who in the industry are there. And so they're like, yeah, so we would like you to speak. We've only ever had one other speaker, and that was Oprah Winfrey. So again, I was like, yeah, I will totally do that. Oprah Winfrey, hello. So I said yes, which again was a good and a bad idea. I told you I'm full of bad ideas. So I said yes to this, unknowingly that some of the biggest names that I've always looked up to as a child, as a kid, growing up would be there. I think it was only 2 weeks before that I got an email saying, oh, just by the way, Ricardo Tisci from Givenchy will be there. We're on radio. And just, oh, by the way, as well, Kanye West will be there. Oh, and by the way, Nas is performing. So I'm sitting there basically like, what? Like, is this really happening? Like Nas, Kanye West, Angel Hayes. These are people I really admire and really who are amazing in their respective fields. And they're all there. So the first thing, I'll give you kind of a brief synopsis of the night, how it went down. So the first thing that happened was we arrived, right? It was my friend, my boyfriend and I. We arrived and we had to walk down the red carpet. there was actually a couple, like I said, it was red. And so my best friend and I, my boyfriend had forgotten something, so he went back to where we were staying. And so my best friend and I were just walking down the red carpet, and we feeling ourselves. I don't know if you've ever been on the red carpet. You kind of feeling yourself, you're just like, you're doing that. Because something about that red carpet transformed. You know, I thought I was Naomi Campbell. That's where my mind was. So we posing, my best friend and I posing for the cameras. There's basically like a barricade, and all these paparazzi were taking pictures of us. So her and I could smile like this. It was so awesome. I'm so gonna Instagram this. Next thing, the cameras turn. There was a moment where we literally were looking at each other, smiling, thinking about how we're going to tell people about this experience, and the cameras turn. And it was like, oh, Aretha! And Aretha Franklin was there too. So my friend and I were like, well, we guess that was our 2 minutes of fame, this is done. So we walked inside. There was a whole lot of other things that happened throughout the night which were interesting and mind-blowing all at once. And then there was a moment where I was about to speak. So first they showed the clip that they filmed for the documentary. And in the documentary, I ended off the documentary with a message to other young people living with HIV. And I was backstage. So before the video had even been shown, actually, I was backstage. Like 20 minutes before. And Sue's Beats and P. Diddy were the MCs. So they're like MC doing their thing, you know, P. Diddy's like that swagger. So they're, you know, on stage, and I'm basically this random girl sitting backstage, kind of looking at everyone. Then Kanye West comes by. He's eating a plate of food. Kanye West was eating that. I saw Kanye West eating. That's not how I don't need to do anything else in my life. I saw Kanye West eating. So Kanye West is kind of eating, and he's kind of looking at me like, who are you and why are you here? Because basically, it's like the entourage and celebrities backstage, and then they just see. I had no entourage. I have no entourage. I'm working on that. Basically, I need an entourage. But yeah, so I'm backstage. Yes! I like that. I really do need an entourage. I mean, Alicia had like someone for her hair, and someone spritzing water on her face. I had like someone facing the shoes. So if you guys wanted to do that, I think we should talk about job application.
Can I have the dress?
Perfect, I've got my entourage already. But then, so they show the video, and I end off the video. And so P. Diddy and Swiss Beats are now standing next to me. I'm about to go on stage. And they're drinking shots of Ciroc. Yeah, Ciroc. So I have a shot of Ciroc, and then they see, they're like, oh, you're that girl. How are you? I'm like, good, P. Diddy. I'm good, sis. And then I had another bad idea, which was I had a shot with P. Diddy and Swiss Beats, which was really cool. In the moment, maybe not such a good idea before you go on stage. But, you know, it was my moment. So I took it, and I enjoyed it, and I had my shot, and I went up and spoke. So I did my little bit for a few minutes, and I got off stage, and one of the first people to kind of come up to me, as soon as I got on stage, was Kanye West. Which for me, I don't know if he's a Kanye West fan, you know, but I'm a huge Kanye West fan. So one of the things, I walked on stage, and there's Kanye West. And Kanye West is like, listen, I think you're amazing. Snapshot of it in my mind, or forever be etched in my mind. It will never leave my mind. And I was like, thank you so much. But I was trying to play cool, you know, I don't want to act like the groupie that I really am. And I was like, yeah, thanks, Kanye. Anyway, listen, I think Nas is calling me, I'll put you later. So that was boyfriend, and we were kind of taking pictures. And across from the room, Kanye had arrived with Scott Disick, right? And he's kind of like, yo, like, where you been? This is Kanye West to me, like, yo, where you been? So I'm like, I've been right here. Because of course, I mean, this moment will never happen again. So I was like, yeah, you should come here. I'm gonna come to you. You come here. So my boyfriend looks at me, he's like, huh? It's Kanye West, dude. Like, you know, she's gonna work the picture. Eventually we took a picture, we started to spoke for a bit, did the rounds to a few other people, and there was a moment and a time in all of that chaos and all of that kind of glamour and glitz where I reflected on a little girl, a young girl who was 19 finding out about her HIV status. And where I was here I was in New York City, where basically the biggest names in entertainment, fashion, in everything. And I was kind of talking to them. At some point I spoke to Alec Webb, one of my best friends, for about half an hour to talk about the state of Africa. And I was like, I was 19 when I found out my status. 25, 6 years later, this is where I am. And that really stemmed from, which goes back to kind of the theme of this, Ubuntu, human kindness. And I think that first step to human kindness is self-kindness, is choosing yourself. And for me, I don't think there was a specific moment where I chose myself. And I'll explain to you what it means to choose yourself. I think to choose yourself means to be okay with yourself and all the decisions that you make. Even if they're bad or they're good. I mean, like I told you, I'm the queen of bad decisions. I've made so many bad decisions in my life, but all of them have led me to certain moments, like the one I just described, where I stood and I was like, damn, that bad decision to get up and speak at university in second year was kind of the start, the first step I needed to take to be here in New York today. The second bad decision to speak to an at the Al breakfast and say, hey, I'm HIV positive. Please, like, I want to talk about this issue, was the second bad decision I made, which led me here. So all these bad decisions basically led me to a place of saying, it's okay. Like, I choose myself, and I'm basically a bad decision in itself, but that's okay. But I'm okay. I'm okay with being a bad decision. I'm okay with all of it. I'm okay with being the awkward girl. I'm okay with being the weird one at the party who, okay, now I am a twerk star. Who maybe wasn't so good at the party, who was always awkward, and I'm okay with that. And I think when a lot of people talk about Ubuntu, they kind of always take away from being yourself. They always, I mean, one thing that I learned in school, actually, a quote I heard in school was, ooh, now it just slipped my mind, what was it? It must have not been important, huh? Anyways, so, the first thing you learn in school is always be nice to other people. Always be good to other people. I say always be nice to yourself. Always be good to yourself. Everything else and everyone else is secondary. They're a big part of being human. But certainly, if you're not nice to yourself, and you're not kind to yourself, how can you be kind to the rest of the world, and how can the rest of the world be kind to you? For instance, if you're not kind to yourself, you'll date the bad boy. I've done it. I've dated so many bad boys, I feel like I can relate to bad boys. Now I'm dating a good boy, you know. He happens to be really I didn't know what I deserved, and so I always went for the bad guy, you know. I wasn't nice to myself, I wasn't kind to myself, and so I always made kind of decisions which would hurt me, and in turn hurt the people around me. For instance, like I said earlier, I had always been, I had, I guess, a sprout in depression when I found out about my status. And so during that process of healing, I tried to commit suicide a few times. which is hurting yourself, but it's also hurting the people around you. So how can you commit suicide, try to commit suicide, and still think you're being nice to yourself? Like, it doesn't go hand in hand. And so when I reached the point where I told myself, you cannot do this anymore, you deserve better than this, that's when I think the world was nicer to me too. And that's when all these opportunities, all these great, amazing things started to happen, was when I let go. And I was like, listen, I'm putting myself first, I'm choosing me. Now I just remember the quote from school, which was, you are either in life, you are either an example or a cautionary tale. And I always used to say, kind of adding on to that was, yeah, but at least you're still an example. At least you're still something. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least, even if you're making the bad decision, you know the girl, the mean girl, or the mean girl in your life, or the mean person in your life. You will always tell yourself, in your mind, I do not want to be that person. So you're still doing something. Whether the good person, the bad person, the whatever person, even being the awkward person in school. Now, years later, I meet some of my high school friends and they're like, you're just very nice. I was actually really nice because I was awkward, like I said. I was the awkward kid in school, so I did not do much talking except for my jokes. I was really, really funny. So I had some kids I went to school with come up to me and say, Phindile, like, I'm so glad I went to school with you. You were so funny. I had a nickname. My nickname was Phindile in school. It doesn't sound great, but I actually like it because I really like Winnie the Pooh. I still like Winnie the Pooh, and I'm not ashamed. I like Winnie the Pooh. My name is Phindile. I like Winnie the Pooh. And so, my nickname was Phindile, firstly because I loved you to eat, and secondly because Phindile was this open little piggy, and Phindile was funny without being funny. That was me. Like, I was funny without trying really to be funny, but I was funny anyways. And a lot of people would come up to me now and say, Phindile, you know when you were in school, it was so funny, dude. Like, you made high school bearable for me, you know? So whatever it is, whether you are the example or the cautionary tale, it doesn't matter, I think. As long as you're being good to yourself, as long as you're being kind to yourself, that's how human kindness and in essence, what you translates, you know? Yeah, I think I've kind of covered everything I wanted to cover, but I guess it's so great to be here with young people today. I feel so energized. I was so nervous by the way. I was in the car, oh my god. That's how I speak by the way, when I'm really nervous. I'm going to say to all these young people. But it's so great to be here in a room of young, vibrant people and young, vibrant minds and to share my story and my experiences with you today. Although it was really early in the morning. Just BTW, 8:30 start time is super early. I don't know how you guys do it. So well done for that. Well done for waking up. Because I was in bed this morning, my boyfriend was like, do we really have to get up? I was like, yeah, we have to go speak to the young people. Speak to the young man. We have to do it. And we made it in one piece. I was with coffee. But I'm really, really glad that I made it. I'm really, really glad that I had this opportunity to talk to you guys and share my experiences with you and share parts of my life with you. And it's been really an honor, and thank you so much.